What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. Excuse my voice. But anyway, I wanted to talk about something that I did not touch on, but I'm going to talk about it today. So after Shannon Sharpe did his interviews with Cat Williams, Monique, etc., DL Hughley came out and said that, Shannon Sharpe is really just Wendy Williams with muscles, right? Alluding to Shannon Sharpe being, after he did the interviews with Monique and Cat Williams, he alludes to Shannon basically being messy, being a messy dude that puts our community, people within our community into conflict with each other. He's alluding to that, Shannon being messy and starting drama. Well, I want to say this. I respect DL Hughley a lot, right? But DL Hughley is a frequent guest on Vlad TV. Now, I'm never going to sit here and act holier than thou and act like I don't watch Vlad TV. I do watch Vlad TV. There are a lot of great interviews that come off of that platform. People that I haven't heard from in a while. You get to hear their life story and certain situations that you probably would not hear because either people aren't interviewing them or they don't ask certain questions, right? However, I've watched Vlad put black men into it with each other by certain line of questioning and bringing certain black men up when they're not talked about. When the guest is not even talking about them. For instance, Boosie and T.I. Boosie and T.I. super cool. They super tight. Boosie had a stand on snitches. And then Vlad said, well, what about T.I.? What about T.I.? What about T.I.? That's like basically he know that's Boosie guy. That's your guy T.I. T.I. said this happened. How do you feel about him? Is he a snitch? How do you feel about him? You could tell Boosie was uncomfortable answering the question, right? But in order to save face about his principles and morals, he said, well, I don't know. I got to talk to Tip, because I don't know if he did that. And then Vlad trying to, he said it, right? He I don't know if Tip did that. I got to talk to him. But if Tip did that, then I would have to say the same about Tip. You can tell he felt uncomfortable even addressing a situation with his homeboy, you know what I mean, before even talking to him. And then after that, T.I. went off. And him and Boosie was having a war of words with each other. And eventually cooler heads prevailed and everything, right? But they had a whole album in the works. A whole album ready to get money together, ready to go probably tour, release an album that was going to do some numbers. And it stopped after they felt like the time had passed because Boosie and T.I. kind of got into it with each other off of Vlad's line of questioning, bringing T.I.'s name in the situation after Boosie had made a certain stance on snitches. And Vlad brought up Tip's name, right? Same thing with Boosie and Young Blue. Him and Young Blue got into it after Vlad interviewed Young Blue, asking him about Boosie and are you signed to him with certain paperwork, etc., etc. And he made a certain statement, and then here come Vlad. Now again, they probably had their own situation behind closed doors, but Vlad, Young Blue said as soon as he interviewed Boosie, he put the flashback of Young Blue. Well, Young Blue said he wasn't signing you. He said he wasn't signing. He ain't got no paperwork. He said he ain't signing you. This ain't happening. That ain't, or here, Boosie, look what he said about you. Look what he said about you and y'all situation. Not about you, but look what he said about y'all contractual situation. Look what he said. Boosie say, nah, man. We're going to have to fix that. I don't know what Blue talking about. I don't know what Blue. Ooh. They get into a whole other situation, right? Boosie has a certain stance on snitches, right? He said, well, what about Gangsta Williams? Here come Vlad. What about Gangsta Williams? What about Gangsta Williams? Birdman's brother. He told on the deceased to get out of jail. How do you feel about him? Is he a rat? He told on the deceased to get out of jail. Well, Boosie well, that's rat type stuff. Boosie never mentioned Gangsta Williams, but Vlad threw his name out there, to see what he was going to say about Gangsta Williams, knowing he going to interview Gangsta Williams later. He interviews Gangsta Williams, asks Gangsta Williams about Boosie and all type of stuff that Boosie got going on. Well, was Boosie what about Boosie? You and Boosie situation? What y'all got going on? You know what I mean? So Vlad has situations where he got black men going back and forth with each other, and he's bringing their names up to each other, right? He's bringing their names up. He asking them about how do you feel about him? Is he a snitch? Is he a snitch? You said you don't like this. Is he a snitch? And he's bringing up situations where putting them in a situation where they can be in conflict with each other. He is. Asking Boosie about Gangsta Williams, then playing Boosie's comments back to Gangsta Williams to see how he gonna respond and how he gonna react. Matter of fact, DL Hughley was just on Jason Lee's platform. And Jason is the messiest of them all. He one of the messiest. He started a lot of shit. He starts, going below the belt. He be putting all type of name dropping folks in certain stuff and throwing people information out there in messy, nasty ways at times. Jason Lee gets nasty with it. And Hughley gladly went to that platform. We didn't see Jason Lee get into it and say some crazy stuff about people before, right? And Hughley gladly went on that platform, on Jason Lee's platform, and sat and did an interview, a whole nice long interview. So how you gonna talk about Shannon Sharpe being messy, but not Jason Lee and Vlad TV, who you frequent, right? So here's the thing, man. When Shannon Sharpe is interviewing people, he does not lead them in any directions. Really, he don't be bringing folks up like that unless he asks. He don't, not for a drama purpose, but he might bring them up about a certain situation they had and like, okay, well, and related, and ask them a question related to, well, what will you do in this situation or that situation when when a fan heckled this person or that person? I'm just, I'm throwing out an anecdote. I'm throwing out an example, right? He don't say, well, do you like DL Hughley? You and DL got into it. You don't like DL? Matter of fact, when she threw a shot at DL, he was like, what DL do? What did DL do? And Monique said, oh, you don't want me to talk about DL. DL is friend. DL is your friend, honey. That's your friend. DL is friend, honey. You don't want me to say nothing about DL. Because Shannon didn't want to have them into it with each other, right? He said, now what DL got to do with this? What did he do, right? Because he didn't mention DL. Monique brought him up. Same way when he interviewed Cat Williams, Cat brought up the people he wanted to mention. He didn't mention Steve Harvey. Them cats just started going off, snapping on folks. Cedric the Entertainer, all the people that Shannon had previously interviewed. He didn't know the interview was going to go like that. Shannon just gave Cat a platform to speak and tell his story and all of that. And Cat Williams went off and started going in on a whole bunch of comedians that I'm sure Shannon Sharpe still want to interview. He couldn't control that. He couldn't control that. He didn't bring up DL to Monique. Monique just pulled his name out the hat. You know what I mean? So what is DL talking about, man? See, as Shannon has started to ascend, people start throwing shots as he's getting more success and getting mad at him. You getting mad at the wrong person, DL. Be mad at Monique. She brought you up. Shannon tried to defend you. Like, what DL got to do with this? What'd he do? You know? Knock it off.